In the King James Old Testament, atonement is defined by Strong's as to cover, specifically with bitumen. This word is found 102 times and translated as 14 different words or phrases. In the King James New Testament, the word atonement is found just once in Romans 5:11. In its other three occurrences, it is rendered as reconciliation and reconciling. Strong's defines this word as exchange, figurative adjustment, taken from the root meaning to change mutually, that is, figurative, to compound a difference. Allow me to again share the following from Arthur Adams. Atonement. This word occurs only once in the New Testament, in Romans 5:11. In the New Version, it does not occur at all, but is changed in the above passage to reconciliation. The English word atonement I've already explained in the preceding number of the paper. The idea of the word is that of unity, at one mint. To bring two parties at variance into harmony and union is to set them at one, or to make an at one mint. Hence the word indicates the means whereby man and God are united, made one, and since the enmity and alienation are entirely on the part of man, the atonement is entirely for his benefit. But this idea is more fully set forth in the term reconciliation. Atonement at one mint. To bring two parties at variance into harmony and union is to set them at one, writes Arthur Adams. Our word reconcile, which carries the meaning of two parties working out their differences, agrees with the idea of oneness or unity. Also within the scope of atonement are the components of love, mercy, grace, and forgiveness. After all, how many of these things are needed to reconcile one with another? So what was our first definition? To cover, specifically with bitumen. Curious? The simple definition of bitumen is a black, sticky substance, such as tar or asphalt, used for making roads and roofs. How did this get into the definition? Because of the following. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. Here, the Lord tells Noah to make an ark and pitch it within and without with pitch, where pitch is bitumen. Since the ark was the means of salvation for Noah and his family, the idea of cover is not so far-fetched. My brothers, if anyone among you wanders from the truth, and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death and will cover a multitude of sins. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. These passages give us a better idea of what is meant by to cover. Now let's reconsider the following. And without shedding of blood there is no remission. As we learned, shedding of blood denotes losing our lives, so in essence, this is a necessary stage in the spiritual process to bring us to true freedom. Losing our lives equates to challenging and disconnecting from those things in our hearts and minds which create division and isolate us from one another. Hence the reason why atonement or reconciliation is so needful. Perhaps John had this in mind when he wrote the following. Whoever says he is in the light and hates his brother is still in darkness. Whoever loves his brother abides in the light, and in him there is no cause for stumbling. But whoever hates his brother is in the darkness, and walks in the darkness, and does not know where he is going, because the darkness has blinded his eyes. Our phrase, does not know where he is going, correlates with Cain, does it not? If anyone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And this commandment we have from him. Whoever loves God must also love his brother. In part 2 of this series, I introduced the concept of sowing and reaping, while in part 6, I stated that the two goats on the Day of Atonement point to the two covenants, the law, and its spiritual essence. It's important to note that both covenants were inaugurated with blood, or to be more specific, death. In light of sowing and reaping, consider the Lord's words in the following. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. Whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. As we see, a grain or seed of wheat must fall into the earth and die, or it remains alone. And it is not good that the man should be alone. So it is that the first or old covenant is the ministry of death and condemnation, while the second or new covenant is the ministry of the Spirit and righteousness. In the first, we see the ramifications of sowing to the flesh, while in the second, the reward of sowing to the Spirit. In the first, there is often a need for reconciliation, but in the second, there has been an atonement. Now, let's reconsider the following. For this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. Our word covenant in this passage is defined by Strong's as a disposition, that is, special, a contract, especially a divisory will. This agrees with Hebrews 9:16 through 26. Most everyone is familiar with a will as being one's last wish before they die. This points to the fact that one's will is their final wish, to be fulfilled after their death. And so it is with the new covenant. Our word for covenant is found 33 times in the King James New Testament. Here's the spiritual meaning of this number from Stephen Jones. 33 is the number of a sign. That is, the confirming evidence establishing a prophetic word. The prophetic word itself is authoritative, and the confirming sign upholds it, presents it, and establishes the prophetic word by the double witness. I don't believe it's a coincidence that the word covenant is found 33 times, indicating the confirming evidence establishing a prophetic word. What is this evidence? The blood. What is the prophetic word? His covenants. No wonder Paul said, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap." Let me close today with the following illustration for your own study. You can find this illustration at my website, grainofwheatpublishing.org.